Hi everyone, and welcome to PPL Playoffs Round 1 against Gray, or Ember. So, this is post-commentary because I did do live commentary for this match, but OBS did not pick up my mic at all. Unfortunate, but here we are. But yeah, looking at this matchup, we have pretty similar looking teams. This is cross-divisional, so mirrors are possible, and we have quite a few here. We both share Furgraf, Dragapult, and Scrafty on our teams. But anyway, I kind of brought a pretty standard offensive Charizard plus a bulky Chlorophyll Venusaur, a mixed Sash Dragapult, a counter Trick Room Furgraf with Imprison Room, a bulky offense Scrafty with Fake Out, and a physically defensive Swampert to counter their Mega Mawile and Sand Core. They brought Mega Blastoise, Rotom-Fan, Furgraf, Hippowdon, Volcarona, and Scrafty. Notably, no Mega Mawile. Not too unexpected, but pretty cool not to see it. And no Lycanroc, so they're not going for like a huge sand mode. And actually no Appleton, which I was a little surprised about. It could soak up Charizard's Heat Waves pretty well. But looking at this team, I do like the Charizard Venusaur matchup, so I was pretty happy just to start with that. Just strong Charizard Heat Waves plus potential fast Sleep Powders from Venusaur. Sounded pretty good. I wanted Swampert in the back just to handle stuff like the Hippowdon and the Volcarona. And Dragapult kind of just outspeeds everything, helps clean up anything in the end game with the strong Dragon Darts. So yeah, good luck, have fun, of course, here to Gray. And let's see what they ended up leading with. So they end up leading with Furgraf and Blastoise. As I get Charizard and Venusaur on the field, we actually have all three of the Kanto starters out, which is pretty cool. But as far as what we're actually going to do, I was a little wary of their Furgraf going for Ally Switch. My Furgraf is also carrying Ally Switch for this match, so it was just at the top of my mind, and I was cautious of it. So I just decided to go for a spread Heat Wave, get good damage onto both here. It'll do great damage into Furgraf and at least chip down the Blastoise some. That'll help against Water Spout as well. And then because I was worried about that Ally Switch, I actually did not go for Giga Drain here into the Blastoise slot. I just protect just to kind of see what's up. And this also helps if Furgraf just happens to target down Venusaur with like a strong Psychic or something like that. So we get our Mega off with Charizard. Get that Sun up, activates Venusaur's Chlorophyll for the next turn. Feeling good about that. And of course, to no surprise, they also get their Mega off with Blastoise. Venusaur does get his Protect off for the turn. And Furgraf actually does go for that Ally Switch. So I was ready to suspect some kind of chicanery. Charizard does get a Heat Wave off, and that's great damage for Furgraf. Chips Blastoise decently well. And we do see a burn onto the Furgraf. That's a little lucky. Probably not too impactful given how chipped it already is. But the lack of damage in Blastoise does mean it was free to get that Shell Smash off. So it is a setup Shell Smash set. So that's pretty scary. Immediately I'm thinking I need to start targeting the Blastoise down. Luckily, it can't take out both of my Pokemon on this turn. Its spread moves are all Water type, and that might do a lot to Charizard, but Venusaur, of course, resists, and we're in Sun, so we should be fine. I'm kind of just thinking I gotta do whatever damage I can into it, so we're gonna go for a Charizard Solar Beam into the Blastoise slot here. And then because I just don't want the Furgraf free to do whatever it wants, Venusaur is going to end up targeting that down with a Giga Drain. I do get pretty close to time here, but luckily enough, we do get the moves we need to off. And we target each slot down with grass moves. We do see the Furgraf switch out to Hippowdon, which is wildly unfortunate for Charizard Solar Beam. It's something I need to think about more when I click Solar Beam with auto weather setters in the back. But we end up just charging it up as Blastoise luckily goes for Protect. Actually kind of worked out there. And we punished the Hippowdon switch in with this Giga Drain, but it did have a Rindo Berry to mitigate that damage. So now, unfortunately, this is a bulky Venusaur, which means that a +2 Mega Blastoise was probably outspeeding it anyway. But now my opponent can be confident that this Mega Blastoise is the fastest thing on the field right now, thanks to the sand. And it's kind of free to pick its target and try to take out whatever it wants. I was actually pretty confident that Venusaur would be taking a hit from this Mega Blastoise. So I just decided to go for a Giga Drain into it. Charizard's of course was forced to Solar Beam, which makes me think that the Blastoise might be targeting it down. It's more of a guaranteed hit. Which motivates me more to go for this Giga Drain into the Blastoise slot. Just make sure I take it out. But it actually targets Venusaur. This Dragon Pulse does get the KO from nearly full. I was a little surprised about that damage roll. I thought I would be living that, but it turns out it was a roll about 50-50 after a single take of sand. And the Solar Beam, because we're at half power from the Sandstorm, does not take out the -1 Spadef Mega Blastoise, and the Hippowdon has Stone Edge, so that just takes out Charizard. So, pretty bad turn for me. We're down to 2-4 at this point, with just Swampert and Dragapult. But at the very least, Blastoise is chipped down into... It only has one tick of sand left before it's down. The Hippowdon is, of course, slow, and it's already used this item. Burgraph, same deal. It is very low right now, and kind of slow. So it's not looking horrible, but we definitely have a hill to climb. So because the Blastoise is one sand tick away from going down, it would be great to have double protect here, but yeah, Swampert doesn't have protect, which is unfortunate. I'm just going to Muddy Water. This takes out the Hippowdon, I'm pretty sure, while Swampert is actually bulky enough to tank a single hit from the Blastoise. And then, of course, we do need to protect Dragapult. There's just nothing else for it. I thought about Sunny Daying here for a second, just like, oh yeah, override the weather that they set. Power down water moves, but like we need that sand tick. We absolutely need that sand tick. So we get the protect off. They do make the right call. They don't target Dragapult, they target Swampert. But of course we do take that. Swampert's pretty darn bulky here. We missed the Blastoise with Muddy Water, but that's actually not a big deal because of the sand. And we do take out the Hippowdon before it can do anything on this turn. So this does feel like a pretty good turn, although Swampert being left so low is a problem. It's 2-2, and we have Swampert and Farigiraf on either side here, down pretty darn low. I do reveal my leftovers here on Swampert. And we at least get to see the fourth Mon that my opponent brought. They actually reveal that is the Scrafty. And of course Farigiraf comes out on the other side. And then Intimidate is the obvious choice from the Scrafty, but I do have Clear Body on my Dragapult to help out against that. So at this point, I think my best shot at winning this game is a Yawn into the Scrafty. If I can do that before it KOs either of my Pokemon, I get a couple of turns to hit it and potentially KO it. So we're just going to Yawn into it as Dragapult then has to do Dragon Darts, take out the Farigiraf before it can do anything, and get some chips started on the Scrafty. Swampert is actually faster than Scrafty, like by base speed, but I am not running any speed on Swampert, so we're going to have to see who outspeeds who here. If the Scrafty gets to take out Swampert, I think that cuts off my win condition entirely. We get a Dragon Darts off though, and that does some chip into Scrafty, and it does take out the Farigiraf, which is great. Unfortunately though, the Scrafty is faster, and they do target the Swampert. Which, yeah, that pretty much seals the game here. Dragapult simply is not strong enough to take down the Scrafty before we just get one-shotted by a knockoff. So, it's going to be a loss here. I do end up protecting this next turn because there's one tick left of sand, or at least I thought there was. There's one turn left of sand, but for those of you who don't know, the last turn of sand, it disappears before the actual damage can happen. So it doesn't matter too much, but I was thinking, like, one more tick of sand, maybe if we double crit Dragon Darts after, it'll KO, but I don't even think it's in range of that, if I'm being honest. So, whatever. We just Dragon Darts for some damage, don't reveal any other attacks, and yeah, it'll be a 1-0 loss to start here. So a couple things that went wrong with this game. One, Mega Blastoise was a terrifying threat. Getting that Shell Smash off immediately, there was not much I could do to immediately stop it, especially with like shenanigans from the Farigiraf, going for Ally Switch, the fact that I didn't build Venusaur quite fast enough to outspeed it under Sun. That's kind of a misbuild on my part, in my opinion. The other thing, I think Dragapult was not that helpful here. My other slots ended up doing pretty well. I think Swampert was great in that game. But Dragapult, it finished off the Farigiraf, but its speed really isn't super necessary here. The Sash isn't that great with Sand available to my opponent. So I think I'm definitely inclined to leave it behind for potentially the rest of the match here. With that said, though, I think Charizard's still a great lead because it can get Heat Waves off onto pretty much everything my opponent can bring. Obviously, Solar Beam threatens Blastoise a lot. It applies pressure no matter what my opponent's leads are. Instead of Venusaur, though, I am going to try and pair it with Farigiraf, which I am actually running the combination of Ally Switch and Imprison, which prevents, after the Imprison setup, it prevents my opponent's Farigiraf from actually going for any more Ally Switches, which lets me put extra pressure on the Blastoise. We do not have that redirection taking attention away from it. I'm still going to bring Venusaur to take advantage of the Sun and Swampert in the back. We still need it in case the Hippowdon or the Volcarona are big problems. So yeah, it's really just the change of lead, and Farigiraf is in instead of Dragapult. We're trying to go bulkier for this game. Dragapult, I mentioned already why I was leaving it behind. Scrafty, I'm going to leave him behind again. It doesn't do much here outside of pressure Farigiraf with knockoff. And it has a losing matchup against Hippowdon, and probably Mega Blastoise. But anyway, let's see what the leads are. They end up going very different. They have Scrafty and a Volcarona. So a couple things about this lead situation. Scrafty and Volcarona both threaten Farigiraf a lot, and Scrafty did show it has some speed investment, but Farigiraf is Colbur Berry, and I'm actually running a decent amount of speed on Farigiraf as well, like kind of a lot, to guarantee the jump on their Farigiraf. So I'm going to protect with Charizard because I'm worried about a rock move from Scrafty coming out, and I go for what is hopefully a fast Dazzling Gleam into the Scrafty to pressure it. And notably, Volcarona Bug Buzz, Farigiraf is built specifically to take that, so I'm not too worried about going down this turn. We get our Protect off with Charizard, and then the next move is actually the Volcarona Protect, which shows that Charizard is faster. And we do get our Dazzling Gleam off before the Scrafty can move, so we do outspeed it, and we 2-hit KO it with Dazzling Gleam, which is awesome. Scrafty does Stone Edge into Charizard, which I was right to go for the Protect there, for sure. And at this point, I'm pretty free just to go for double spread moves here. Heat Wave and Dazzling Gleam. I mean, it does huge damage to both of these guys, and there isn't really much that wants to switch into this. Hippowdon would reset the weather away from Sun, weaken the Heat Wave, but, I mean, obviously that is still a massively strong Heat Wave. And then Blastoise resists it, but still takes a lot of damage from the combination of these spread moves. So we are in a pretty great position for this turn, too. Alright, so Charizard does get the Mega going here. Get that Sun up for the strong Heat Wave. And I didn't calc whether Heat Wave was going to KO Scrafty or not, but even if it doesn't, obviously Farigiraf is right behind it to go for Dazzling Gleam. We do take out the Scrafty with that. Leaves the Volcarona available to go for whatever it wants, and it's going to be a Quiver Dance, so another setup threat after that Shell Smash Blastoise in Game 1. Dazzling Gleam, it's a +1, it resists Fairy, it's not going to do anything to that Volcarona. But we have chipped it pretty well, which is nice. And of course, we do see Hippowdon here. It's going to reset Sand, and we already saw from game 1 that it does have Stone Edge. So Charizard's pretty threatened here. I do want to keep Charizard tucked away in the back, protected a little bit here, so we can reset some later. Venusaur obviously depends on that a decent bit. And then for Graph, I don't really have too much to do on this turn, so it's just going to be a Dazzling Gleam. Probably sacking Farigiraf off here, if that's what it comes down to. Atlas, which I want to keep hidden for another turn at the very least, and a Prism and Trick Room don't do anything. So yeah, that's just this meteor amount of damage is all that Farigiraf can really do. We get Swampert in, and the Volcarona goes for a Fiery Dance, which hits into Farigiraf. Does good damage, but of course not a KO yet. It does get up to +2 special attack though, which is going to be a problem. Dazzling Gleam does some decent chip damage into both the opponent's Pokemon. And this Hippowdon does get its Stone Edge off, but it's in the Swampert. So, all good there. Now, the Volcarona is getting chipped down every turn. It's pretty close to going down here to Sand. But of course, with Swampert in now, the main thing I have to worry about is Giga Drain, which could be a pretty big problem. So, Muddy Water is obviously the choice from me. It does great damage into both of these guys. The question is whether I Ally Switch or not. So, assuming they do have Giga Drain, which I think it would be smart for them too, they're probably clicking it into the Swampert slot, but just in the same way that my Farigiraf has Ally Switch, so I suspected it from theirs, their Farigiraf does have Ally Switch, so they might suspect it of mine. In the end, I do just go for the play of Muddy Water plus Ally Switch, because if they make the play to predict this Ally Switch right now and Giga Drain into the Farigiraf slot, they have outplayed me. They deserve the win. But the Ally Switch comes off, and the Giga Drain does take out Farigiraf instead of Swampert. So that's amazing. Farigiraf goes down, which is unfortunate. But this does give Swampert the perfect opportunity here to get this Muddy Water off. But at +1 Spadef, this Volcarona does take it, and it doesn't even go down to Sand. So it's a big problem. The high horsepower from Hippowdon doesn't do too much, so that's alright. And then, yeah, Volcarona still kicking for one more turn here. So, I was having a hard time deciding what to go into with this other slot. Obviously, Swampert doesn't have Protect, which is a big issue. So I kind of have to rely on Sand Chip to, like, pressure the Volcarona into, like, you know, dying next turn if it doesn't do something about it. So I'm not setting up Sun yet. We're going Venusaur. And basically, my thought here is we just need to make sure this Volcarona goes down this turn. If it Giga Drains Swampert, Venusaur does have a Rock-type Weather Ball, which should be doing a ton of damage into it this turn. So that is what I'm going to go for there. And then, of course, if it goes for a Fire Move into Venusaur, that's really unfortunate. It kneecaps my endgame for sure, but then at the very least, Sand will take it out. It will not have healed anything. And I'm just going for the Muddy Water with Swampert anyway. There's not much I can do otherwise. And it is a Fiery Dance into Venusaur, so that takes my full health bulky Venusaur off the board. That sucks a lot. It actually does get a special attack raise, but obviously this one doesn't matter as much. But it's going down this turn. The Muddy Water misses the Hippowdon, which sucks a lot. It's still alive, but it's honestly not that bad. The Volcarona still goes down, which was the goal of the turn. And the Swampert, it goes for high horsepower. Gets decent chip on a Swampert. And we are left in, this is a 2v2 situation now. With this Hippowdon and Blastoise, it turns out, against my Swampert and Mega Charizard Y. Notably, Sun is up now, and they don't really have anything to reset it, as far as I'm aware. So, we're looking like we're in a pretty good spot here. It's a setup Blastoise, of course, and like Charizard outspeeds it right now. So I kind of have my options. I can Heat Wave, which will take up Hippowdon and ship the Blastoise, or I can Solar Beam into the Blastoise. I end up going with the Heat Wave play just to take Hippowdon off the board. And this is where Yawn from Swampert comes in handy real well. Blastoise is going to Mega Evolve, but nothing's going to stop this Heat Wave short of a miss from taking out the Hippowdon and chipping the Blastoise down a bit. Protect comes out from the Blastoise. But luckily Heat Wave does hit into the Hippowdon, so we're good. And I do reveal Yawn here, but there's really not much they can do about it on the next turn. Now we have a pretty easy play in just going for a Solar Beam with Charizard, and then I believe I do end up going for a Yawn with Swampert, but realistically I could have just went for an Earth Power. You'll see after the turn plays out, but we can really just be going for damage here. Blastoise just doesn't have enough firepower in Sun to be like taking out both these guys, especially if it's outsped by the Solar Beam here. We do get that off, and yeah, I mean, we're looking pretty great. We get it down to 9%, so I definitely could have just gone for an Earth Power instead of a Yawn. It does get a Shell Smash off. So Yawn is going to like let it do something for another turn, rather than if I had attacked it. But we still have a guaranteed win here. If Charizard goes for Protect and Blastoise falls asleep, then we're good. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Charizard protects, and then Swampert, you know, might as well Earth Power. If it goes down, Blastoise targets into it, then I still win this game 1-0. And they did target Charizard, so it's not like it matters, but I win this game 2-0. So that's cool, I guess. Alright, but yeah, that's going to take the series to 1-1. That did feel pretty good for me. Charizard definitely showing why it's pretty good in this matchup. And then Swampert, really great here. It just kept taking hits from the Hippowdon. I think the main takeaway there is I just have to be careful about the Volcarona. It was a huge threat after setting up, so just have to keep that in mind. I don't know if there's like different bring that I could make to help out against that, but I just have to keep it in mind, you know. So given that, I am just tempted to make the same brings here, lock those in with the Charizard Freegraphs to start. This helps a lot if they pivot back to their game 1 strat of the Mega Blastoise plus Freegraph. Mine can imprison it for future turns of Ally Switch. And then, of course, Venusaur still feels good. I think I bring Venusaur. And then Swampert, necessary as always for the Hippowdon and pressure into the Volcarona. I believe I'd take a while to make that decision, though. This guy's taking forever. Can someone hand me the controller? But, yeah, I mean, the Blastoise is still the biggest threat they have. Volcarona, still a big setup sweeper. I do end up going with the same four, that's right. But it at least loses to Charizard, which is a big part of my game plan, obviously. So yeah, we're going to see the Charizard Freegraph lead. Alright, and with that, we see they went back to their game 1 scratch of the Blastoise plus Freegraph. Now, I buried the lead a little bit on why I've been leading with Charizard Freegraph. Obviously, the idea of imprisoning their ally switch is nice. It works like at the turn after you set up Imprison. But for some reason in my head, I was like, oh, if I imprison this turn, they can't ally switch. Forgetting that ally switch has priority and Imprison does not. So I just target the Blastoise with that Solar Beam. And I'm like, they can't ally switch. I have Imprison. And right after I inputted that stuff, I was like, right. They can still ally switch if they want to. So that was a misplay for sure. Imprison still nice to set up, and we're targeting the Blastoise with a Solar Beam. But if they do choose to ally switch, nothing's stopping them from doing it. Luckily, though, they did not. go for the ally switch on this turn. It was essentially a 50-50 whether or not to ally switch on this Solar Beam here, and I luckily got it right. This does, though, let the Blastoise go for a Shell Smash, which is pretty scary. And their Farigiraf goes for Psych Up, which is crazy. It's also worth noting that their Farigiraf just outsped mine anyway. But yeah, we're looking at 2 Shell Smash boosted Pokemon on the opposing side. And at this point, I was like, game over, right? There's not much I can do about that. I do end up determining, though, that my Farigiraf, it does have Trick Room. If I manage to get that set up, then we can, reverse the boosted speed on their side. And so that's basically my play, is hope that Farigiraf survives the turn while Charizard protects. Now, I've shown in prison just now, so they have good reason to think that I might have Trick Room. But this is my play. If they can target down the Charizard, which they actually do, I get the Protect off there. And the Hyper Voice, of course, isn't going to KO Farigiraf outright from their own Farigiraf. We actually are able to get the Trick Room. It's a Life Orb Farigiraf on that side, so it's very offensive. So Crisis averted, we have the Trick Room up, and now we have the 2 fastest things on the field, technically. I could have lost the game right there if they had just double targeted Farigiraf, but I'm glad the play worked out as it did. But at this point, yeah, Charizard is free to just go for this Heat Wave, plus the Farigiraf Dazzling Gleam. I'm not quite sure it's going to KO their Farigiraf, but I have to go for it. It's the most damage I can get. Their Blastoise protects, just keeping itself safe for the turn. But I do get my damage off onto that Farigiraf. We saw from Game 1 that Heat Wave's doing plenty to take this thing out from 60. Unfortunately, though, their Farigiraf does dodge. That's pretty bad. It means it's still alive for the turn. It's not horrible because I'm still outspeeding it. We're in Trick Room for a couple more turns, so I'm not too worried about it. We can't bring in Venusaur because Chlorophyll Venusaur, I'm risking outspeeding, underspeeding them, or whatever. So we have Swampert here. Heat Wave is still going to just completely burn through these 2 Pokemon, so I'm not too worried about that miss from the last Heat Wave. Now, of course, they could switch out either of these 2 to protect them from this Heat Wave and like Earth Power combo, whatever. But of course, that means they're getting rid of their boosts, which is still a win. So I'm still looking like I'm in a pretty good position. The Blastoise went for a double Protect. I assume they're just trying to stall out Trick Room. I don't know. But luckily, it did not get that, so we're going to grab 2 KOs on this turn because Heat Wave does not miss. And the double Shell Smash boosted threats over there are gone. I did not expect to actually ever click Trick Room in this match, but here we are. Worked out really well, and Trick Room Swampert actually looks pretty good right now. We see they brought the Scrafty in the back, and they also brought the Rotom, which is a new bring. So this is kind of interesting. Both of these guys probably underspeed my Charizard, so they'll beat it in Trick Room. But of course, Swampert should probably be the slowest thing. We saw that Scrafty did outspeed it under normal circumstances in Game 1. So we got a pretty good angle right now. Just switching Charizard out for later. Venusaur can probably take some hits. It's pretty bulky. And then Swampert can actually start going for Yawns. And because they can't switch out, that's a pretty great way to negate these last 2 Pokemon. They actually do a for a Fake Out into Venusaur here. What was Charizard, which would have just taken out the Charizard with that priority move. So I understand that. We do get the Yawn off on the Rotom, and Swampert actually avoids the Will-O-Wisp in return. That is unfortunate for my opponents, but it shouldn't be too meaningful. I'm a special attacker. It would really just be negating the leftovers recovery. And then here with Sun gone, Venusaur might actually be the second. Well, it might outspeed the Rotom under Trick Room right now. So we're just going to start getting damage off. The Rotom's going to fall asleep on this next turn. So I'm feeling good about just starting to go for my damage. The Rotom actually goes for a Helping Hand into Scrafty. And that's going to let the Scrafty do good damage with a knockoff, I guess. But nothing like a KO. Mighty Water's not that strong, but it'll do the job in chipping these guys down. And yeah, knockoff, pretty good damage into Swampert, but nothing amazing. We are Fizz Def on that guy. And we're just going to be chipping down that Scrafty with Giga Drain. And now on this turn, with Rotom asleep, I can just start targeting that Scrafty down. Just try to take it out before the Rotom wakes back up, and it'll theoretically be a 3v1 afterwards. So that's kind of the priority right now. On this next turn here, I actually wasn't I wasn't like super caught up on the rules on Sleep Clause. Like, it's doubled, so I'm pretty sure that you can sleep as many opponents as you want. But I wasn't super sure, so I was like, I'm just gonna avoid going for another Sleep Powder or Yawn or whatever. So ends up being fine. Like I'm just going for damage. And it works out pretty well here. We're almost there on chipping down this Scrafty. One more turn and it's going to go down. So, yeah, we're just left with the Sleeping Rotom. Of course, it does wake up here. I think it's taking 2 sleep turns, so that does track. Goes for the Air Slash, which Venusaur does take. And we don't flinch or anything, so we just get the clean KO on Scrafty there. And it's down to 1v3 with that Rotom on the other side. So, looking pretty good. At this point, I'm just trying to think of ways that I could possibly lose this game. Try to avoid that. We get another good chunk of chip with the Muddy Water. And yeah, I mean, we're looking pretty good. Venusaur's probably going down here to the next Air Slash, but Swampert can just go for a whatever you want to call it, Yawn. And we'll be pretty good again. I think about switching Charizard in here for some reason. I don't believe I do that, and that would have been a pretty bad idea, I think. That's probably the main way I lose this game, is by letting Charizard go down, and Rotom just does not go down to Swampert because it flinches with Air Slash or something. I do actually go for the Protect with Venusaur. That seems like a bit of a misplay in hindsight, because yeah, the Rotom does call that an Air Slash in the Swampert. Luckily, we don't flinch from the Air Slash and we get the Yawn off. So that does pretty much seal the game here for me. And now here, easy enough just to start targeting down. Even if it gets KOs, Charizard can come in. Yeah, it's going to KO the Venusaur, but Charizard can KO the 0 sleep turn Rotom. Pretty much no problem. Muddy Water does another good chunk, and yeah, Rotom is left pretty low. It does have a Citrus Berry, so not over yet. Charizard comes in. We outspeed non-Scarf Rotom every time. So now that it's asleep, what I'm actually doing is I go for a Solar Beam, just to completely negate any accuracy woes that Heat Wave might have. I take a second here to just calc to make sure that 2 Solar Beams will do it before Rotom wakes up, and it looks like it does, so that's what we go for. So that essentially wraps the game up. There's like a small question mark, and like maybe it's super bulky. It can take 2 Solar Beams while Swampert misses the Muddy Water. That's like the one thing I was thinking about. But yeah, 39 down to 17, so we are good. Does more than 20%. And Swampert just wraps it up here with the Muddy Water anyway. Does KO even through Sun, since it's now single target. But yeah, that is going to wrap up Game 3 of Round 1 playoffs. Good games to Gray. This was a really wild set. The double shell smash essentially in that game 3 to start. I thought that I was completely cooked. So yeah, ended up being a tense set of games. I was very happy with the results, of course, and that's going to take us to quarterfinals next week. At this point, I don't know who I'm playing that against, but yeah, we only have strong competition from here, obviously. So yeah, with all that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.